Greetings, church. I hope that the videos that we've been sending out to you have been an encouragement and a help to you. Today I wanted to take a few minutes and focus on the idea of resolution from the message that I preached this last Sunday. At the end of the video, I give a practical exercise that I hope will be a blessing to you. I suggested from Psalm 138 that if we're going to fight fear with faith, we're going to need to resolve in our hearts to give thanks to God, to worship Him, and to pray. We saw David's resolve to do these things in the repetition of his statement, I will. Resolution is a determination of the will. It's determination that flows out of a definite decision to do something specific. Jesus demonstrated this kind of determination in his resolution to go up to Jerusalem, knowing that a cross awaited him there. Luke 9:51 says, "And it came about, when the days were approaching for his ascension, that he resolutely set his face to go to Jerusalem." Jesus' resolution to go to Jerusalem was in spite of the terrible trial that was facing him there. David's resolutions were also made in spite of terrible trials. We know this because he says as much in verse 7, where he writes, "Though I walk in the midst of trouble." We don't know what specific trouble David was facing, but we do know that he was often in great fear of his life or in great fear of loss. If you think about it, resolve is really only necessary when things are difficult. I don't know about you, but I don't have to resolve to eat ice cream. I don't have to set my face to go to the freezer. I only have to resolve to do those things which are uncomfortable to me, things that work against my natural desires, things that fly in the face of the facts around me. Our current circumstances certainly qualify as times of trial. There are great temptations to fear, especially if you're watching the news cycles. It's in times like these that we need to resolve to give thanks to God, resolve to worship Him, resolve to pray, resolve to function by faith. Indeed, all of these are acts of faith. But where will this faith come from? How will your faith be strengthened to make these kinds of resolutions? David wrote that he would do all of these things with all of his heart. And we're helped if we understand what he meant by the heart. In this context, David clearly meant the whole of his inner being, all of his mind, all of his emotions, and all of his will. But it's even more helpful to know how God has designed our hearts to function. Though the mind, emotion, and will all work seamlessly together, it's the mind that functions as the gateway to the heart. You are going to feel and act based on what you think and believe. This ought to be an encouragement to you, though, because this means that there's a way for you to control your emotions. David also wrote in Psalm 143 out of great trouble. He says in verse 4, "Therefore my spirit is overwhelmed within me." So what did he determine to do? Well, he wrote, "I remember the days of old. I meditate on all your doings. I muse on the work of your hands." In other words, David took his thoughts captive to truth. He thought about who God is and about what God had done. In Psalm 145:5, he wrote, "On the glorious splendor of your majesty and on your wondrous works I will meditate." David understood that if he were going to manage his emotions, he would need to manage his mind by meditating upon the majesty of his Maker. We all know how easy it is to allow our thoughts to drift off and to get caught up in the current of concerns swirling around us. And right now, the media, the politicians, the experts, all form a kind of rapids of opinions and speculations that will sweep your soul away if you're not resolved to anchor your heart tightly to the truth by deliberately taking time to think about the splendor and greatness of God. Whatever you're thinking, your emotions will follow quickly behind and will either join your mind in thanksgiving and praise or will descend with it into the valley of despair. And without restraints, your emotions will take on a life of their own and will wrest control of your soul away from your mind and lead you to behaviors that are irrational. Why else would anyone hoard toilet paper? So, What can you do today to strengthen your faith for tomorrow? Here's a suggestion. Make a list of 2 or 3 splendors of God's character. For example, His infinite knowledge, His perfect goodness, His amazing mercy. Then, take time to look up scriptures that tell you of these things and ponder them. Write the scriptures out and put them in a visible place. Share them with your family or a friend and discuss them. Use them to worship and to pray and to give God thanks. Remember, God's Word is an amazing means of grace to you. In it, He reveals Himself, and by it, He means to strengthen your soul. I hope this has been helpful to you. I long to see you, and I'm praying for you. Lord bless you.